Good morning, good evening, and good afternoon, wherever you are in the world, and welcome. Welcome to the Infinite Way, where spirituality meets humanity. And it brings me great pleasure to welcome back Dr. Linda Tello. And Dr. Tello is the CEO of Whole Earth Engineering. And I'm so glad to have you back because when we first had you on, we shared so much about the Quiros Indians of Peru, the whole gamut of, so much going on in terms of your work and your engineering work there
Thank
in
you.
the Chua Valley, and you're doing phenomenal work. And then we
Thank
had you
you.
back, and you were facing some serious health issues.
Yes, I
And
am.
so here you are. Welcome back, healthy,
Thank you.
and I'm so excited to have you back. So we want to welcome you back and just, that whole journey with your meningioma and the fact that you're on the other side of it is so meaningful. And we wanted to hear how life is going now and how things have been since you've been able to heal from that journey.
First, thank you, Enolia, for having me back. I really appreciate it. And I appreciate all of your followers. I am such a fan. I'm friend first, but definitely a fan of everything you're doing. And I'm consistently impressed by how you continue to evolve. So thank you for having me back. Much appreciated. And thank you for asking about my health journey. Yeah, just to recap a little bit, I was only having what I would consider one symptom, and that was that I would say words with a bit of a Spanish accent. And even though my family is from Colombia, uh, I was never able to imitate English with the Spanish accent. I don't know. I just couldn't do it. Maybe because I heard it so much growing up, it just wasn't natural to me. But I started noticing that I would say certain words that would have a Spanish accent. And I'm like, and they'd be random, just completely random. And I was like, that's so strange. That was the only thing that I noticed in terms of myself. And then I was also really fatigued, but I didn't know if that was mainly can't speak, mainly just like postmenopause, because I'm of a certain age, as they say. So it was just a lot of the hormonal fluctuations, I think, and I was fatigued. And then I just noticed, like I said, the shift in the pronunciation of certain words. That was all. That was all that I had experienced. And so I went to my ENT because I felt like I was having issues with my sinuses. I live up in altitude. We're about 5,500 feet here in New Mexico where I live. So I figured, well, I'm probably having trouble breathing because of the altitude. And she ordered a scan in order to prepare for doing, because I had a deviated septum and all of that. So much funness. Oh, sorry, my work computer is beeping. And so when I had the scan, they did a full head MRI, or no, I'm sorry. First, it started with a CT scan, and that's when they discovered the incidental. That's what they call it when they find something that they're not expecting. So they found this incidental finding, and it was a meningioma. And so then they had me do an MRI, and they confirmed that it was a meningioma, and it was right here, kind of just off center. It was on the right side of my brain. No, yeah, just a little bit over the center. So it was called a cerebral phalanx meningioma, and it was located in the memory and concentration area of my brain. But the thing that was really interesting was that it had not caused any edema, which is like swelling in my brain, and it had not the tumor had not invaded the main central nerve of my brain. So the doctor said that if he were to have any type of brain tumor, he'd want mine. And I'm like, you can have it. So, right? It's like, you can have it. So I was really fortunate in that it was an incidental find. The other thing that was really quite lucky, and I think this is where I do have a lot of spiritual protection, in that the doctor said that the radiologist that did the scan, he was old school and he was going to retire in about a month. So old school means that he would do a scan of the entire head, whereas I guess new school, if you want to call that. Now, what the radiologists do is they only scan the sinus area of the head of your
Hmm.
face, right? So if they'd only done the scan of just my sinus area, they wouldn't have seen the tumor was up in like my forehead area right here. So that was really fortunate. And I will say, one of the reasons that I went to the doctor at that time, because I'd had this for a while, and I think it was just, I just kept hearing a voice in my head go to the doctor, go to the doctor, go to the doctor. So finally I was like, oh, right. And, so finally, and I think for me, because, your show, you cover many topics, but I think one of the underlying themes is the spirituality and our humanity and connecting. So for me, I believe that that voice that I kept hearing could have been my higher self or my guardian angels. I don't know. Ultimately, it all comes from the one, but I kept hearing, go to the doctor. And so I went. And like I said, I was fortunate that I went at the time that I did, because had I gone a little bit later, that particular radiologist would have retired and I would have never found that I had the tumor. So fast forward, I was able to, I interviewed a few doctors, and I kind of was having a little bit of fun with it, because for me, I think it's important when you're facing something in life to find a little bit of humor in it for yourself, or it just gets, I mean, not that it wasn't serious, it was serious, but I like to keep a little levity in things. And so when I went to find the neurosurgeon, the brain surgeon that would open my head, I
Uh-huh.
asked him, because I actually did look this up, and I'm about to say there's like a website of like superhero powers. so, so, so I went on, like, I don't know, the superhero website power. You can Google it, Chat GPT, and there were so many options. And the reason I was doing that is because I wanted to find a surgeon that would at least have a little bit of a sense of humor. And
Right.
right. So I interviewed one, and he kind of looked at me really strange, and I was like, okay, never mind. You don't get my humor, because if you're gonna crack my head open, I gotta like you.
Exactly. Really. No, you're right. You gotta
You
have a
know?
connection.
Exactly. So the first doctor was like, what? He was like, I don't think so. He was too serious for me, which, probably good for some people, but I was like, yeah, no, I want a serious guy, but I also want someone who can laugh at what I'm asking. So the second doctor that I found, I asked him two fun things. And the first one, I was like, okay, I just want to make sure, have brain surgeries evolved beyond trepanations? And he just kind of looked at me. And for those people that are not aware, because I watch a lot of the ancient history shows, like the Inca and the Maya and all the Aztec warriors and stuff. So a trepanation would be like if someone got bonked on the head, by one of the weapons, and they had brain swelling, they would cut a hole
In
in
their
the
head.
skull to relieve the pressures until the swelling went down. So when I asked the doctor, have they evolved beyond trepanations? At first he's like, what? And then he's like, oh yes. And then he's like, okay. And I'm like, bet you no one ever asked you that before. And the doctor's like, no. But the fact that he was kind of working with me, I was like, okay, I like you. You have a bit of a sense of humor, and you know what a trepanation is, because at least they have to know fundamentals of like kind of brain health, or what you call it, procedures for relieving brain swelling, you know. So I was like, okay, and then I asked the doctor um for the superpower I chose. So there's so many when you look online, all the different options, so many options for superpowers. But ultimately, I decided that the superpower that I wanted to ask the doctor for, because he was going into my brain, I figured, why not? Can you rewire a few things in there and give me some superpowers? And ultimately the one I wanted was energy manipulation. So
Ah, okay.
yes.
And
Yeah.
why
So
relation?
because when I looked at all the different types of superpowers out there, you can go like whether the Marvel or DC Comics, whatever. Ultimately, all of those powers come down to the ability to move energy.
Uh-huh.
But the movement of energy can come out of the person, either like Superman through like rays of light. I think he did rays of light or X-ray vision. I'm not up on all my superhero stuff, but or like the Flash, like he could move. So he's like has this kinetic ability to move quickly, or I don't know. I think Spider-Man actually had a suit and he had like, I don't know. So I don't know if that was exactly a superpower, but he could stick to things. So ultimately, if you look at all of the different superpowers that any of the superheroes had, it was because they're able to manipulate energy in some way, and like different talents for moving that energy, but ultimately it's the ability to manipulate energy. So
Right.
that I was like, okay, so if I get energy manipulation as the superpower after he goes in there and rewires everything, then I basically can decide, well, what what superpower do I want to have today? Because I would have the ability to manipulate energy, and it would be my choice. Do I want to, you be able to do, like, I don't know, bewitched and like wiggle my nose and like have the thing appear? So, that's like, I think that would be like what, I don't think that's telekinesis. Telekinesis is moving things, but teleportation, that would be that. So teleport an object, but ultimately what you're doing is you're breaking down that object to its most fundamental molecular level, and potentially
Like,
even going into, yeah,
hard
potentially even.
assembling it on the other end.
Thank you. Yeah, you're taking it down to that fundamental energetic frequency. And so now it becomes like a vibration of some sort, and you can move it through the dimensions and it would pop up. It'd be really helpful sometimes because it's like, oh, can I just have dinner be like that? I imagine dinner and it's already done. It's like, so I figured energy manipulation was the most complete power I could potentially have. So, so I did ask the doctor for energy manipulation. Again, he's like, he goes to me, he's like, I'll see what I can do. I was like, I'll take that. So it wasn't a no, and it wasn't a like, okay, I think you're crazy, lady. You know what I mean? It's kind of like, well, I do have a brain tumor, buddy, so maybe you can help me with that. So, but no. So I appreciated the fact that he humored me, and he was just like, I'll see what I can do. So I
Okay.
was very grateful with that. So I will say it was quite interesting having the surgery, because the anesthetics, I was talking to the anesthesiologist. Next thing I know, I'm waking up, from the whole thing. I was like, wait, what happened? And I do have a question. I haven't had a chance to really explore this, but maybe some of your viewers actually know the answer to this. I don't remember like being under or having anything happen. And I wonder, like, where did my consciousness go at that moment?
That's a really interesting question too, because I've had minor surgeries, not major surgeries like you,
Mhm.
but
Mhm.
and yes, you're the anesthesiologist is there and you remember counting backwards 1, 2, 3, or 10, 9, 8, 7, and not getting past 7, and then you're out, and because it's a synthetically induced, it's almost like your spirit is just held while your
Is that what it
physicality
is?
worked on. And then for some reason, whenever that anesthesia wears off, it allows it to expand again. That's the only way that I could say it. It's almost like I felt compressed and then I
Hmm.
expanded. And then, I looked at it in terms of rungs on a ladder. And that
Okay.
they took me so deep on the level of rungs that I was close to, like, I don't know if the ladder was 1 to 10, I was like a 4 and I was compressed and I felt nothing. I
Huh.
didn't go all the way to 1,
So you
or
still had some awareness of what was going on some level,
no, I
or
had no
no?
awareness.
Okay.
While the main procedures, I had a small hernia to fix. Okay.
Okay.
And
Okay.
I had no awareness while it was being fixed. But I remember having awareness and going down the rungs until I was
Hmm.
completely out, right? Because everything was going on around me. I was fully aware. And then it kind of dulled. And then it blurred. And then from blurring, it kind of faded. So it went to, uh fully apt to dulling to blurred to fading, fading to I'm no longer coherent, and then no longer
Mm.
coherent to silence.
See,
And then
that's really interesting.
I didn't, nothing. I was just, it was silence. It was like being placed in the void and and just allowing the void to envelop you like a womb.
See,
That's
that's
what I,
really interesting, because you're describing that you were like in a void in a womb. And I don't know, maybe it's because of the different area of the surgery. I don't know. That's why I'm just I need to explore this because no, seriously, because I remember when I was 4, I had a double hernia also when I was a little kid, and this back in the 70s, kind of age myself here. But I remember having an out of body experience in the operating room. So I remember them putting the mask on me for I guess the anesthetic, however they used to do it back in the day, kind of thing. I remember them doing that. And I remember floating out of my body and kind of looking down at the whole operating scene. It's kind of blurry now because it's over a couple of decades ago, this memory kind of thing. But the general essence is I remember having an out of body experience and looking down at the whole surgery. But this time, it's interesting that you say that the counting down of like the 10, 9, whatever the numbers were. I remember I was asking the anesthesiologist, maybe a little graphic, spoiler alert here, might be graphic for some, I'm about to say. I was asking the anesthesiologist because I'm not a brain surgeon. I'm an engineer, but not a brain surgeon. Totally different things. I was like, so when you open my head, you kind of like rip some of my brain off when you're like, because they have to like move some of the skull to get there, because the meningioma basically is the meninges. You have like the 3 layers of the membrane that's between the skull and the brain. So kind of like you can liken it to like that membrane when you're cooking your chicken, that little membrane over the muscle. So I know like sometimes when you pull that, it kind of rips, or like kind of this morning trying to do my hard-boiled egg, they also has that little membrane there, and sometimes I'm not a very good hard-boiled egg maker, and so some of the actual tissue from the hard-boiled eggs kind of gets caught on that membrane. So I honestly had a question, is like, is that some sort of injury that's going to happen in my brain? And I remember the anesthesiologist saying, no, that our brain, when we're born, it's kind of made like Legos. It has layers on it. So you're able to like unfold the layers. And so it doesn't do that kind of ripping. I was like, okay, good. So I was really happy to learn this. So I was having that conversation with the anesthesiologist, and then I wasn't. And then the next thing it was I woke up. And what I found really interesting that I didn't know, which may be different than your experience, and could be how the anesthesia works on the body depending upon where the
it's
surgery
different.
is. Yeah. But what I was really surprised was that it didn't hurt. Like when I woke up, I mean, I had to take a little bit of painkillers, but it didn't hurt. Like I'd had some other minor surgery before, like in my abdominal area, like kind of like yourself, like that hurt. Like I was like, oh, I don't want to move. Like this for it didn't hurt. And what the doctor said was that because you don't have as many nerves in like your skull area. And I was like, oh, which also made sense if you want to bring it back to the trepanation, how they could do that back in the day if they didn't have anesthesia. it's like okay, so it was quite interesting. But yeah, and I can definitely say afterwards I felt lighter.
Okay.
So I could definitely sense that there was a change in my energy. And I know you and I kind of talked about this offline a little bit. And
Uh-huh.
one of the things that I was thinking about in terms of it being a memory and a concentration area of my brain where the tumor, it was almost 3 centimeters, I believe. So it was kind of, I got like a lime stuck in my head, and it's kind of
Yeah.
like, I don't know. It's like I'm an Aquarius, and sometimes people are like, "You're like an airhead." I'm like, "Well, luckily I had some space up there to put a lime up in my brain." You know, pays to be an airhead sometimes. You got space for other things. Um, so, but
But
what
okay,
what I right? It's like I'll take it if I got room. I joke now with folks that that was my space alien baby. Living in New Mexico. You gotta expect strange things. That was my space. I had my space alien baby kind of thing. But what I did find interesting was I did feel lighter after, and I was like, oh, and I didn't feel as tired, so I felt better. And I started thinking, why was it in that particular spot of my brain?
right,
And there could be multiple reasons, but looking at it from like a spiritual perspective, my family, my grandparents lived through the War of 1,000 Days, La Guerra de los Mil Días in Colombia. It was a pretty horrific, violent time. And then my parents lived through La Violencia, which again was known as one of the most violent political wars in Colombia. So I have a lot of multi-generational trauma. And then I have indigenous ancestry from Colombia, and then I have Iberian ancestry. So that's where like a lot of the conquistadors came out also from Europe, coming down to South America during that the period of that colonization and conquest. So I've done a lot of psychotherapy, a lot of work dealing with familial aspects, familial patterns, and similarly to the work that we just did, I'm bringing in the Caro here. So similarly to the work that I just did up in Peru for the Caro with Engineers Without Borders, Whole Earth Engineering, we installed a catchment box. And
right.
a catchment box, for those that don't know, because I don't know, that's what it was called, kind of thing, is basically a box that you can have like a spring head, or in technical term is a sipe. That's basically where the water comes out of a mountain.
Mhm.
So we identified that point and we created this catchment box so that we had some piping that would catch the water coming out of the mountain. And what the catchment box does, it's like oh my gosh, like a colander in a way.
Yeah,
It's like the name
redirect.
says. Well, it catches actually the water flow. Yes, it redirect it, but the water flows through the box first, and there's perforations in the pipe, so the heavy sediment will fall into the box, and basically like a colander, I think that's what it is. So a colander, and it'll catch all the heavy dirt and any rocks, so that you have, like you said, now you have the water redirecting out of the box, and it can flow down the rest of the mountain where you've or into a basin that you can
So you
create.
filtered, you in essence
The
filtered out
filter, thank you.
any heavy sediments that
Yes,
that
thank you.
that could have been caught in the pathway flowing downhill. So yes.
Exactly. Thank you. It takes a village, right? Thank you. So yeah, I think that's the menopause brain. The tumor. I'm like, what's the word? Um, so yeah, so I felt like similarly to the catchment box that we built in Peru, I felt like in a way the tumor, because it was in the memory area, I know memory concentration, but I looked at the memory, I felt like maybe it was similar, like on from a spiritual perspective, that was similar to that catchment box, that a lot of those heavy energies that were caught in the memories and all the work that I'd done to release a lot of that energy, that was where a lot of it, the heavy stuff, the heavy sediment of that, the heavy vibrations kind of built itself up there. And like in the catchment box, every so often you have to go in there and you physically have to clean it out. So
Okay.
I felt that possibly from a spiritual perspective, that tumor was that, like that sediment. And I did look at Louise Hay's book, like it's it Heal Your Body, I believe that's the
Heal your
title.
body. Right.
Heal Your,
Yes.
yeah. And then I know for brain tumors, the the cause, I think there's like a couple of columns, like the cause or potential cause, and then like an affirmation you can say to heal yourself. It's stagnant thinking. I remember she talked about that. The tumors were stagnant thinking. So I was like, interesting. So if I've been doing the work to shift my mindset, shift my perspective on things, and I got this tumor in the memory area, then I'm like, potentially that was a lot of the stagnant thinking from my ancestors, or the things that needed to be cleared out of my body. And one of the faster ways of clearing it out would be to actually manifest it physically and then have it removed. You know,
Yeah, well, and just so that our audience understands that, and this is my take on it, that when we have issues, because we are vibratory beings, those issues manifest from stuck energy.
yes,
That's my take on it, period. Right?
yes,
So
yes,
if I don't care if it's your lymphatic system, I don't care whatever it is that you're dealing with, that's the
mhm,
stuck energy that has then caused your body to go off balance. And then that off balance is measured by to what degree it's off balance, where we have corrective surgeries or whatever the case may be, or we're able to change it through diet, or we're able to change it through a combination of both. Whatever the case
yeah,
is, it's stuck. It starts off with stuck
yes.
energy.
That vibration is stuck. So moving it forward. So once I had that removed, and I've now been about a year and a half
Mhm.
healed, I have noticed my intuition has really heightened. And I'm like, oh, maybe I did get some superpower, like tweaking after all. But it's been really quite fascinating to notice how often I get like an intuitive hit now.
Uh-huh.
And I don't even quite, I'm just like, oh, okay. I don't even question it. And I,
But if it is like, what's going to happen right before it happens, what's going to happen as it unveils itself, and you
mhm.
already know how it's going to flow and what direction it's going to flow because the energies that are
Yeah,
engaged
I
with
just,
people.
yes, exactly. Whatever it is, I don't question it. I just know and I accept it. I'm having fun with it.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't like make wiggle my nose and dinner appear yet. I'm working on that one. It's gonna be really
Yeah.
great.
Because what it's also saying is that you came out trusting self fully,
Mm-hmm.
you
Yeah.
know? Because when people get intuitive hits and they second guess themselves, that's the distrust of self.
Yes. Exactly. I like that. And
You
what's
know?
also really fascinating with the intuitive hit, so as we were kind of talking, behind the scenes in the pseudo green room here on Zoom, I started doing an outline for a book. I've been talking about this book forever. I started doing an outline, and in my research for that, I'm quite fascinated, and I'm obsessed with. I want to go find this, but I discovered this gentleman named Don Estes, and he has a center that he created out in Santa Monica, California, called the Reality Center.
Mhm.
And how he got to the creation of his center and how it relates to my book is that he talks about everything as vibration. I got to observing patterns in indigenous practices as an engineer. I'm like, why are they always using these colors, this and that? So that ended up relating a lot to vibration, the emotion, musical notes, colors, everything. I
Yes.
kind of laugh, and yeah, I kind of laugh because and if you find some of his podcasts online, he got there because before LSD was illegal, he and his friends would get high, and he was curious at how to get to those altered brain states without taking any drugs. And
Right.
so, right, so exactly back to your point, everything is vibration. So he got to that through exploring, the plants and all those things. I got to it through observing the caro and the vibration. So back to your point, everything is energy and vibration. And what he has done in his center, which I want to go to because I think it's fascinating, that he has created a sensory experience where he taps into the different hemispheres of the brain, puts in one sine wave on this side, and maybe the sine wave is offset on this side, or I don't know if it's a cosine wave, but he puts different frequencies into the brain. And the way he explains it is like your brain has to, what's the word I'm looking for? figure out, has to rectify the gap in the vibrations. And when your body not only has sound, but he also uses lights and uses a table vibration again, your whole, all of your senses have this experience and you are connected to your higher self. So again, to your point, I come out of my surgery, I've removed this tumor that had a lot of the vibrations that manifested into this solid form. That's removed. And so now I have a higher trust in my intuition and myself. And he's created a center where he can do all those vibrations, all those experiences. And if you find some YouTube videos about his center, people will say that they come out healed, lots of, years of therapy, years of
Let's
whatever.
explore that a little bit too. And one of the things that people should know. So I did a lot of reading with Dr. John Berlew's work, okay, and he
Okay.
created the first human tuning forks, not the regular
Okay.
tuning forks, but human tuning. And why
Yes.
did he call it human tuning? Because he discovered when he put himself in a sound deprivation chamber, okay,
Mm.
that every organ within our body is tuned to a certain frequency, right?
Yes.
So
Yes.
the overall body might be C or the key of G, right? And
Yes.
then let's say, and I don't know what it is one for one, but like A could be your liver and the key of B could be your spleen, whatever the case may be, right?
Yes.
You get it.
Yes.
So what happens and what he discovered in his work is that when the organ is off key, when
Yes.
it's out of tune, right? And it's on
Mhm.
its journey to really being out of balance. What
Yes.
happens is that if it hears its correct key or note played, it actually comes back into alignment,
Yes,
which is
ma'am.
why we as physical beings truly, truly enjoy sound baths and sound healing and
Mhm.
whatnot. Because what happens is that the bombardment of the keys, when the right alignment is done in the human tuning, our bodies get retuned to where they're supposed to be centered and balanced as vibratory beings, like they're supposed to be. But it only happens when it's the human tuning. Now, I caveat this because they say, well, then for that matter, why don't we just play music all the time? And I want our audience to understand that music is definitively created off the solfeggio scales and the human tuning scales. It's
Yes.
purposely created so that it's not on that, so that your body does not align. All right. This is
Mm.
why you can go to solfeggio scales, you can go to what is it, 536, blah 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 blah, whatever the actual tuning place is 256, 3, it has a 300,
Yeah.
400 level, 500 level, etc., etc. I don't have them memorized. But
Yeah.
those specific tunings are played, then you are doing human tuning. And so
Yes.
imagine if all music was created based on human tuning. If all
Well,
music was based on human tuning, we'd be all walking around balanced. Why?
well, to your point. Okay, I'm sorry. Cut
That's
you off.
okay.
Go
That's
ahead.
okay. But why wouldn't the industry want to do it that way? Why wouldn't they want to always be in alignment and balance and base the scales and music on balance? Isn't that an interesting point?
Well, to your point, when I'm not a music expert, but I did hear that before, I think it's 144 hertz or something like that, or 44 hertz. The music people can correct me out there. Um, Music used to be to that like kind of perfect
Frequency.
hertz, but they
Frequency.
changed it. They changed it. And now like most music goes to like 40 hertz beat, something like that, because they somehow the industry knew what you're talking about and they didn't want that. So they shifted it from that alignment of the human tuning you're talking about. So now most music is not on that, it's not on that tuning. It's just off of that perfect beat. Yeah, it's kind of interesting. Yeah.
Exactly.
And
Which is
and and
why. you can go to YouTube and you can play something at, I don't know, 528 hertz or whatever the specific number
Mhm.
is, and then you do actually fall asleep, and it does align the body in some respect
Yes.
because it's human tuned.
Yeah. And to your point about the body being human tuned, and like I said, I was kind of hoping I'd have a little more time off to be able to go to Santa Monica before I had to start work again. But one of the things that I find really fascinating, and to your point, is that at the Reality Center, they figure out your optimal frequency from your voice. They listen to the vibration of your voice. They do, like I said, I'm not a music person, but they do some sort of analysis on your voice, and then they figure out the frequency that you need to have so that when you have your sensory experience, and this is the part I found fascinating, that you can actually connect to your higher self. Because what the gentleman was saying in a lot of the therapy that we do now, we talk about like the heavier emotions, kind of those emotions, like in the Kara tradition, the hucha, maybe your fear or your anger or sadness, whatever those heavier emotions are. And Pachamama in the Karo tradition, it feeds off of those heavier emotions. That's her food. And in exchange, she gives us Sami, which is the beautiful, like higher vibrations, the sweet energy that helps us recharge. So I believe, to your point again, that a lot of that heavy energy potentially manifested into the tumor and I had to have it removed. But at the center, what they're able to do, instead of connecting to those lower vibratory frequencies that a lot of times people discuss in therapy, they actually connect to the higher vibrations. So you're able to connect to your super consciousness and actually have how some people have described as conversations with your higher self. And so again, I feel like that goes to my ability to connect more with my intuitive self, or to not even doubt it. And I think also it comes from experience,
Mhm.
being a younger kind of intuitive person. Oh, I don't want to think that, or especially if it was about maybe another individual or something. Oh no, I would justify whatever. But now it's kind of like, okay, I have enough experience and haven't been bitten behind by not listening to my own intuition, that now I think, it's part of that experience, but also having some of that other energy cleared out through having the tumor removed, that now it's like, I trust. I just trust myself, trust my guides, my higher connection. And I'm fascinated by that, because it goes back to what you said. It's frequency, energy manipulation, it's like, but again, that's why I chose that, because I realized that everything comes down to energy, and
Yeah.
energy is from frequencies and vibrations, colors, sounds. So kind of that's where I am. So I'm in that place of really learning to listen to myself. I'm also in a place where I feel there's a lot of transition that's going to be coming. I've been taking an astrology class. I do a plug for Lunatic Astrology, Lori Lothian. She's really great because she's a teaching astrologer, but she talks about synodic cycles. So again, frequencies, cycles, the energies,
Cycles of the earth,
planets.
cycles of nature, cycles of
Mhm.
everything. That's all a part. I really don't even see astrology without astronomy because
Exactly. They used to be together, like
you
back in the
know,
day. They used to teach them together, and like you notice now,
that's part of
pretty.
that quadrivium piece where they've separated
Mhm.
things, and it's to our detriment in that respect
Yes.
because astronomy and astrology really do go hand in hand.
Yeah.
One doesn't work without the other.
Yeah. And
So
it's fascinating to me that they've separated it, because even NASA, if you go to the NASA website, they have the music of the planets, which is based off the music of the spheres from Pythagoras. So every planet, every celestial body within our solar
has its
system has a vibration, and you can hear the vibration because NASA's got recordings and you can listen to all of them. So
Well,
so if
I
you
might
think to
tell you
your
a little secret. I
yeah,
was
so if
so
you
into that one of those planets' tones, and I won't say which one, is actually plays during the duration of my intro and my outro.
I thought so. I could hear that vibration. I'm like, what is that? But to your point again, vibration. So now, like, if you bring the astrology piece, because that's kind of what I've been kind of, I don't know, drawn to after this. I think again, it's the frequencies and that energy. If you listen to that NASA website, you listen to one planet, whatever the vibration is, another planet, whatever, and then in astrology, it's the geometries. Again, I know you're into sacred geometry.
Oh,
It's the
yes, I am.
geometries, it's the geometries that the planets have as they're doing their,
Their
elliptical.
cycles.
Yes,
Their
thank you.
cycles. Yes.
So now you have this vibration, this other vibration, and now you have a
The
type of music.
harmonics, the
Thank
planet
you.
harmonics that are playing when you hear all of it at once.
Yeah,
Yes.
and that's
That's the
coming to
harmony
us.
of the I want to say that's the harmony of the universe.
Yes, ma'am. And depending upon the geometry, how all the planets are cycling around, we are, I always forget. We're a lot of water. I know that. We're like in the 90% water, 90% water, or something like that. What does water do with those cymatic fans out there? It creates
Oh, it
patterns.
creates patterns in the geometry and it creates the actual geometric figures. So the water holds the light. The light has the
Yes,
instructions. The instructions are then absorbed into that water, and water is powerful. Water is so
yes,
powerful.
yeah.
And
And
the some
so yes, exactly. And what's fascinating is I know you were aware of my research when I did my doctorate, that
yes.
I had all these data points and I did all the qualitative and the quantitative methodologies, and my qualitative instructor wanted me to do a drawing. She's like, do a picture of all your data. And I was like, oh my God, I have like over 800 pieces of data. How do I draw a picture? I went to my indigenous connections. I asked my ancestors, I did a ceremony. And what's fascinating was that night, all of the images, you can say they kind of, they transformed. They transformed from what I call a frozen frequency, the word, to an image. It wasn't 100% done because they're not going to like give it to me. They're like, Linda, you got to do some work, So I got an image and it was a lot of hexagons, was one central point. And what the fascinating thing, I only had one data point that went in that center, which was time. Only out of like all the 1,000 points of data, time. And then what's interesting is one of the interviews I saw with Don Estes, he talks about how words are also frozen vibrations. And he has these images of the universe where it represents the past and the future. And it reminds me of our friend Susan Griffith Jones, the magician's jewel, the centerpiece that goes down, the fundamental image that he has for the universe, that centerpiece that separates the past and the future, looks like the magician's jewel that our friend Susan Griffith Jones has created. So this is where, like, after having my surgery, I feel like it's opened up like a whole nother level of understanding with regard to energy and our ability to
Would
manifest our world.
Wow. So would you say that you came from the void and then came into consciousness, and this is what you brought back? The
I
beauty
think
of
so. Yeah, I mean, I don't know where I was. I'm still kind of I need to explore that more because it was about 5 hours and I'm like, where did I go? It's, or was it like how you described? I was just held by spirit there. I didn't go anywhere. I'm just kind of taking a really deep nap, or maybe I did go somewhere. I don't know.
oh,
It,
no.
it's, I have no idea, but I do feel that I'm at a different, you said this one time, I raised an octave. That was a different conversation
I
we
got
had.
it from our friend Susan Griffith Jones, and she expressed that, and I stole her words because I love them so much. And it's a
Yes.
leap of octave. You
Yes,
go
that's what it,
octave where who you were and what you were entering in is not who you are and what you are as you exited. And I feel
yes.
like I just came from a leap of octave. I just came back from Egypt,
I
and
know. You need to tell me about that offline. I want to learn more.
I feel like a whole nother energetic being. I really just
Yeah. I mean, and you're already pretty energetic woman, so I'm excited to hear about your adventures because that is something else that I've been kind of dabbling into, is understanding the geometry of the pyramids and how that's that's so powerful, it's just, so I'm excited. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's really cool. So
So
yeah,
at
that's,
stage, what is on your horizon besides your book? And I know you mentioned your book. You didn't mention what your book was about or what you want to
oh, I
write.
can tell you that I have
Is
a
it something
title. Well,
or
I named it, it's going to be a little bit of a series because ultimately the title's name is How Woo Woo Works,
I love
an
that.
engineer's curiosity to patterns in indigenous practices.
I love that. Oh,
Thank
that's so
you.
amazing.
Thank you.
Oh,
Yeah,
I look
because
forward
I'm not a quantum physicist, I'm an engineer. I'm always an industrial engineer. That so it's all about patterns and processes and understanding how these patterns are giving us information. What are the root causes of what I'm seeing? Because there's always a reason for something, So I got to that because I had finished the Munai rites through the shamanic initiation through the teachers I had here in the States. And I had an opportunity to go to Peru soon after. And one of the shamans, I asked him to do a healing ceremony, and I noticed similar color patterns. We were talking about colors, so it was color patterns. And then they had the rattles and songs that had certain rhythms to them. So I noticed all these familiar patterns, rhythms, colors within the ceremonies. And that's my engineering brain. Why? Why? How? Why? How? Um, and I started going down, not immediately going down that rabbit hole, but it's been over time and just seeing them and having my own experiences. One that was like I didn't even know was a thing, honestly, when I went to Peru, was I had a Kundalini awakening. So I was in a dark room ceremony, no electronics were allowed. The Ultima Sayok, who channels the cosmic energies, had
oh yeah.
channeled all the different energies from the 7 main mountains in Peru into this room. All of a sudden, I'm sitting on a like crickety wooden chair, and there was nothing fancy about it. It's like no lie, like it's like laser beams of light started shooting up like from my sits bones, started shooting up and then crossing into my body like these like the infinity, like the infinite way, so like the infinity symbol up my body, and I was like, ooh, like vibrating, but it was like laser beams of light. And I did some research and I found out that in, I think it's the Vedic traditions from
Mhm.
India, that those are called the Ida and the Pingala, those energy channels, the Ida and the Pingala, and the middle one is the Shushumna. I please
You're
forgive
saying it correctly.
anyone.
Yes,
Am I saying them correctly? Okay, great. And those are our energy channels. And so what I understood by speaking to the one of the guides that was with us, who is an electrical engineer, who used to be like poo 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 to like anything that he considered woo woo, which is why the title of my book, How Woo Woo Works. He never believed in any of it until he started studying with his wife, Dr. Joe Dispenza's work. And he realized that human beings, we are receptors of frequency. And so
yes.
what he said to me was that more than likely I had done work at that time that had my body primed and tuned to receive these higher frequencies. So when I was in the room with these 7 energies from the main mountains in Peru that were being channeled through this shaman, the Alta Messiah, one of two, only 2 remaining, that my body basically lit up. So it was like a light switch. And
Wow.
it was amazing because I didn't even know that was a thing. I know people go around the world looking for Kundalini experiences. I heard about them, had no
Right.
idea. And I was like, what the heck? It was like something took over my body, and
That's
it was
amazing.
amazing.
Thank you
Yeah.
so much for sharing that with
Oh,
us. I
absolutely.
can't believe that we're already going on an hour of
It
talking.
is.
Holy
Thank
cow.
you.
This has been a wonderful, wonderful journey. And before you go, I would love for you to share if anybody else is facing something like what you face, what
Uh-huh.
words of wisdom would you tell them and share with them now that you've approached it, you've gone through it, you came out on the other side? What would you share with them mainly from your journey?
I think what I would share, because I actually did have a couple of my coworkers and even the doctor, I will say this, even in Dr. Kunal Patel, he's at UCLA Medical, he was really great. He said he was really surprised at how everything went smoothly for me. And I think the reason that it did is because I trusted not not just myself, but yeah, I trusted, that's part of it. I trusted myself, but I didn't focus on fear. I didn't focus on that. I just put one foot in front of the other. Like when I found out, I was like, okay. I guess I approached it like an engineer. I was like, I have a problem. What do I need to do to address it? And I focused on figuring out what I needed to do to help myself. I didn't focus on, oh, if they take it out, I could be a vegetable, this and that, because there are always like, potential complications. I didn't focus on that. And like I said, I found someone that I liked, that put a hole in my head. It's like, so I think that was the thing. I just trusted. I trusted myself, and I didn't focus on the fear, because I felt like a lot of people around me were really nervous. And even the doctor was like, you were not nervous. And I was like, I don't know how to do brain surgery. I have to trust you. But well, I would also say, Enolia, and I actually said this to Susan when I chatted with her, I was grateful for friends like you, because I know that you had some indigenous communities like the Iroquois in New York. You had a fire burning for me all night. And you also had several friends around the world that you had prayer vigils for me around the world. So not only did I have a physical person that I trusted in the doctor, but I had spiritual backup also. I had people like yourself praying for me. So I think all of that allowed me to trust. I didn't focus on the fear. I just was like, what do I have to do to address this? And it's the Fool card in the tarot. You take that leap of faith, and you have to trust. And in a way, I surrender. I surrender to the one. I know many viewers have different names. For me, God, the universe, the divine. I surrendered to that because I knew that there was a reason that this was happening to me. And much like I always heard the shamanic story that every time a baby's born, the ancestors whisper in their ear, "Are you the one?" And
Mm,
so I figured maybe by me getting this tumor out, I would be the one that would finally clear out all of those heavy energies, a lot of the traumas that had happened in my lineage. And now I have an opportunity to now move forward and create my own adventures. Because I said I felt lighter. So now it's time for me to like grow and have my own adventures without having the shackles of those ancestral traumas. I still have the
right,
wisdom. I have the wisdom. And I think that's amazing. But I no longer have the weightedness of the fear or the anxiety, those heavy, that hucha. I don't have that anymore.
right.
But I have the wisdom that now I can, figure out what I want to do. And so I think it's trust, just
I love it.
trust in the divine,
Yeah.
have good friends like you that will pray for you, and know that you do have a squad, whether it's a physical squad or a spiritual squad. You just have to trust.
Yeah. Yeah. Linda, thank you so, so
Thank
much. This
you.
is Dr. Linda Tello, and
Thank you, Dr. Noya.
I want to reach out to you and just have a conversation with you or anything. How can they reach you? How can they speak with you?
Well, thank you. Well, I have my website, www.we, it's WEEINC.org. I've got all my contact information on the website for my nonprofit. I've got my Facebook, my LinkedIn, Instagram. I think my number's on there, but if people want to just send me an email through there, I believe the email's on there as well. They can find me there, and Yeah.
So just so that everybody knows that we stands for Whole Earth Engineering.
Oh, thank you. Yes, Whole Earth Engineering. Yeah, I used to have the website that said Whole Earth Engineering, but it was like, okay, wait, I wasn't thinking this is way too long.
Earth,
We, yeah,
yeah,
thank you. And I like it because it's we. It's a collaborative effort, you
yeah.
know. So that's one of the things I love about that acronym, we, because that's
Okay,
how
and
we
we'll
get things
have that
done.
at the bottom of the description here, and
Thank
when
you.
it comes out on for the podcast. So I just want to thank you. Thank you so much for following up and coming back to us and sharing your story because I know it's very near and dear and personal to you. So we really
Mhm.
appreciate it because in someone hearing your story, you are helping them bridge the gap that they need to go through for whatever they are facing also. So I
Exactly.
just want to thank you so, so much for sharing a part of yourself that is just truly invaluable to us.
Thank you. I hope it does help someone because it can be scary, but I honestly was never really afraid. You know, I just I was like, okay, what do I have to do? And I just took the steps and I trusted. I didn't focus on the fear. It just never really, I don't know, it never really was a big thing. Like the
Yeah.
fear part, it was like, okay, what do I have to do? This is
Eliminate
part of
that
my
fact.
journey.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. Well, thank you again,
Thank
and we
you.
will reserve the right to have you back.
Yes, ma'am. You better. I gotta work. It might be a while. I gotta work on that book. And I got the
I
full-time
love
job
it.
thing too.
You're definitely back
So
to the book.
absolutely. Yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited to finally get that on paper. Help people bridge the the gap between, what a lot of times people think are, mysterious things, but it's really energy. And
Yeah,
how the human body, how we are constructed so that we can actually be perceivers, receivers of that energy. So it's kind of fun.
excellent. Well, to our audience, we want to thank you again for listening. And if you like this episode, please like us. Please subscribe to us on the YouTube channel, The Infinite Way. And that's The Infinite Way Enolia or Enolia Energy, because there will be the play and then the replay of this again. So thank you again. And we ask you to join us for our next one. So until then, take care for now. Bye bye.